What is going on, Badger fans? We're going live. I'm not even prepared for it. I am so frustrated right now. I'm like 5 IPAs in. I cannot even eloquently say how frustrated I am with the offense, with the special teams, with the play calling, with the showing today in Kinnick. This was a joke. It was ridiculous. I'm frustrated. Let's get into it. This is what the therapy session's for. Big breath. We're going to have great guests on today. We're going to chop it up, talk it out, all that and more on today's Locked On Badgers. I'm glad you're here. Let's do it together. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Really appreciate everybody tuning in, as always. Can't tell you how much I thank not just the guests that show up, the people that come up in the queue, Mark, Sad Badger, Justin, Rasheev. I already see all y'all. Everybody listening, we got a ton of people in the chat. We got a bunch to get to. I appreciate all y'all so much. I hope I say that enough. I'm so frustrated. But first, today's show, I do want to get into it, is brought into by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a good friend of ours. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code Locked On, and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. All right, let's get into it. Let's bring Justin, Rajiv on. We got Mark, Sad Badger in the queue as well. We got a few more people joining in. Guys, I just want to kick it to you to start with. What's your big event here? Rajiv, let's start with you. Like, what is really grinding you right now? Like, what's killing you inside?
All I can say is uninspired performance all around the board. I mean, Wisconsin scored 10 points, and Wisconsin's mistakes scored 24, maybe 21. Maybe you give them their last field goal. I mean, that's just, we gave away the game. And frankly, we played like we didn't care. I mean, it was just totally uninspired football. I mean, Mertz looked absolutely. He looked like he
did against Northwestern and Iowa a couple of years ago.
It's just it's like, where was he throwing the ball? Receivers looked like they didn't care. They weren't trying to get separation. They weren't trying to go for balls. Running backs running out of bounds instead of up the field. I mean, it's just the line, the penalties. Trey Wettig, oh good Lord! I mean, he just got absolutely burned by Iowa's D line. I'm upset because, I mean, we all were in the Discord this morning talking about Illinois was about to go down at home to Purdue. Of course that happened. Of course we actually have a chance.
Anytime there's something on the table. Yep.
It's just, I mean, it's just so frustrating. And I know we're all frustrated. And all I can think of is uninspired football. And when you're playing Iowa, you're playing one of your two big rivals. You're playing a game that matters in the Big Ten West. You're playing a game at Kinnick Stadium. This is not some time to just roll over and stop playing football. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's no excuse for it. I know that all Badger fans are furious, and it's just, what are we doing? I mean, we had a chance today, and we played so uninspired. It's ridiculous. Justin, take it away.
Sure. Here's where I'm at. Offensive side of the football for the Badgers is soft. It's very soft. If they can't physically dominate the other team, anytime they get punched in the mouth, they fold. And they've been that way for a while. If we don't have a physical talent advantage, we will not make anything happen on the offensive side. And that's effectively what happened today. Mertz, anytime he gets pressure on him, is just toast. And some quarterbacks have it and some don't. And I think that's just the story on him at this point. You look at it, and this is why I brought up with Ryan how much I love LaCrue, our incoming recruit, because of the fact that his offensive line is terrible and he's constantly under pressure. And he's a guy that's shown that he makes good decisions and does good things in those situations. I think that is a trait you need to look for a quarterback. It's why I don't love powerhouse quarterbacks to begin with, because when you're on a team where you're never stressed, it makes it really hard to get a good view of what a quarterback actually is. But the entire offensive side of the football, like our offensive line play has not been good for going on since we had Gary Anderson here. Like, they're just not good. They're not tough. When we play a team with a good defense, we can't run the football unless you have Jonathan Taylor back there, who is just a freak of nature.
I want to jump in and say, first of all, hats off to the friggin' defense. I'm so frustrated right now. But listen,
defense played so good.
Let me start with that. They played their friggin' butts off, and I am remiss if I don't start with that because Iowa averaged, I got it right here, basically they averaged 1.2 yards per carry. Iowa did. Wisconsin, obviously they also forced a turnover that led to Wisconsin's first 3 points of the game. Herbig was an animal. Keanu Benton was awesome. I am so frustrated by this game, but I really want to start. I thought the defense showed up. The defense line was great. They set a tone.
Linebackers look great.
Linebackers look great. Herbig was putting draft film on tape in this game. I mean, he was incredible. So hats off there. Let's start there. Iowa scored all their points off stupid freaking mistakes.
What did they have? A total of 80 yards for all their touchdowns and scoring?
They did nothing offensively.
We gave them 21 points. We gave them 21 points.
Special teams
with our
mistakes,
miserable
pick
offense.
six. Yeah. So listen, I want to start. I really do want to start there because I am a hopeless optimist. By the way, a lot of people watch this show and they think I'm a pessimistic dude. I am actually a very optimistic dude. The defense was incredible today. I'm
a realist. I like to be optimistic, but you need to prove to me that I should be.
Let's bring Scott on too. Scott's joined the show. It's been a while since we have Scott on. Scott, man, I want to kick it to you because it's been a minute. Your insight's awesome as always, dude. What's your big vent here? And then I have a bunch of comments I want to get into as well. And I still got Mark and Sad Badger in the queue. I'm going to get to you guys next. I promise. I appreciate everybody tuning in. But Scott, man, what's going on, my friend?
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. Defense was amazing. I mean, most games you have a defensive performance like that, you're gonna win by 2 to 3 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And I also agree with Justin. I want to be optimistic, but yeah, the realistic and objective side keeps, getting forced on us. And that is moving forward. Obviously, if Leonard gets this job, one of the caveats has to be
flush everyone but Whitted.
Yeah. You have got to get a brand new offensive scheme. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he would. It's just I feel really bad because we're all so pumped and want him to be so successful in that Michigan State game and then this game today. And it's just such a kick to the balls. Mm-hmm. It's that game today felt so, and it was a different game, but it felt like watching that Minnesota game in a way last year.
You can tell by this team by feel when things aren't right on offense. It's just there right from the get-go. When you kind of watch the way that the drives are mapping out, and you're like, nothing looks easy. We just don't find any way to get a play for 10 yards or whatever, where it's I get that drives are going to be sporadic and there's going to be plays that look ugly, but it's we never had any continuity in this game at all offensively.
No. Oh, another big one, obviously, it's just Braelon Allen has completely fallen apart. This was Mertz's worst game maybe that he's played, at least since the COVID year, I guess his first year as a starter. But Braelon Allen has completely lost it. He's not running behind any of his weight. He's tiptoeing around in the backfield, into sight. He's killing us out there. Mm-hmm. Braelon Allen is killing us.
So I was going to get into that in the next segment, but let's tackle that now. Because Scott, we're going to get into it at some point or one or another. He is running like he thinks he's a scat back. It is driving me insane. I don't understand where the power is. He doesn't have the feet to bounce everything outside.
I think honestly, he's been getting hurt and dinged up, and he's just afraid of contact. And you see what happens to the great backs that do it at the NFL level. That's what happens to them in the late part of their career. They just get gun shy and they just don't want to get hit anymore. And that's what it feels like kind of with Braelon Allen. That play when we were backed up on the goal line and he ran away from that guy, I was like, what are you doing? Exactly. That is tailor-made for you to just pummel him.
Yeah.
Yep.
That should have been a 5 or 6 yard run based off of his momentum turned into a 2 yard run.
And these runs, these short catches and runs where he was going to the outside, and it's obvious he should lower his shoulder and lower the boom on a guy for 3 or 4 extra yards, and he just casually goes out of bounds.
That's why we fell in love with him last year, right? Mm-hmm. It's because he wasn't afraid to make those plays. He wasn't afraid to lower his shoulder and do those things. And what made him good last year, what made everyone think that this is the next running back at Wisconsin, it's gone. It's
Yes.
gone. Just
It's
Garendo
gone.
should start. That's it. Period.
Yeah.
Interesting comment from Pavel Strelic, by the way. And by the way, if I mispronounce names, he says, I'm friends with Mertz personally. He told me he's transferring. We'll keep tabs on it. And Pavel, thank you for the comment. But I want to keep it on Braylon Allen. I was sending, I think it was Rajiv or maybe it was Justin a text. I don't even know. But maybe it's in the Discord. The difference between getting a 2nd and 7 and like a 2nd and 9 is a big deal. And sometimes Braylon Allen, you just need to drop your shoulder and get 3 yards, right? Like 2nd and 7 is fine. 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10 it hurts this offense. And he doesn't, for whatever reason, like he hasn't shown the physicality that he has in the past, which is kind of, Scott, what you were saying. Rajiv, you said the same thing. Rajiv, I'm going to kick it to you. I see you got something to say here.
I would just say this. I actually thought that, for the most of the year, I feel like the line has been just pretty bad, but I thought they were actually getting some push to the point where it's Braylon's responsibility to get some of those 5-yard carries.
Oh, there were a couple where he just kept, it's just where he could have just leaned into it and taken the extra couple of yards.
Yes. And the O-line's done their job. You have to be able to get yours. And, and for so much of the year, they really weren't doing their job. But now they are a little bit. They're getting that push where there's no reason he should not be lowering his shoulder, going right behind the guy and hit the hole and get 3 or 4 yards on first down or second down. But he's not doing that.
I made the comment on the one play late in the game where he rolled off that guy and then ran backwards for 5 yards. And I was just like,
that was
what are you doing? Like, where are you going to go? You know that there's not going to be anything there. This isn't high school where you can just outrun the entire defense.
Right.
Like, you got to go upfield. You cannot spin back and hope that there's nothing there.
Well, let me break here because I got to take a quick break for our sponsors. Coming up, we got Mark, Sad Badger coming up on the chat. And then a bunch of comments I want to get into. We're going to get into, I promise. But first, we do have to take a very quick break. Sponsors of the show, friends of the show, Underdog Fantasy. Today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, which is the easiest way to spice up your college football fantasy weekend. Take a bunch of players, parlay them together, 2 to 5 players. Mike on the Discord does it all the time, and he posts what he has. It's a lot of fun to follow along. It's a great way. You can parlay Tyler Wall with Graham Mertz, right? Different sports, different teams, different players. It's a lot of fun. It's easy to do, simple to set up, and it's a way to spice up your college fantasy weekend, college football weekend without putting a ton of effort into it. None of us want to devote 8 hours into our college football fantasy team and then wait an entire year to get paid out. Underdog lets you do it immediately, quickly, get paid out right away. And we have a great offer for you on Locked On. Sign up with the promo code Locked On. That's one word. Okay, Underdog will double your fantasy or double your deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 for free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store, Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On, one word. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, we're going to get everybody back on the show. We're going to get Mark on the show as well, who's been in the queue for a minute. I definitely want to see what you got to say. Mark, man, thank you for dialing in. Thank you for being in the queue. What's going on, my friend?
The way they played today, especially in offense, and I'm down with Mertz, so I need a new quarterback, and that's how I feel.
So let me ask this, because Mark, and I'm glad you brought that up because I really want to get into it. And then Sad Badger, you're up next. Actually, I think Mark, you're in a different. I think that's you, right?
Yeah, that's me. Sorry.
Perfect. No, that's awesome. I got you in video now.
So this last week I saw, I don't know if it's him like following a different school's running backs coach. And I'm wondering, is he all the way in this? Like, is he still like with the team, or is he like elsewhere, like mentally? It seems like, I don't know. You would think that he would like go in and like lower his shoulder, but he just didn't seem like he's into it this week. I don't know if it's because he's another mind or something, or his mind is changed.
I'll say this. Question. It's funny that the two biggest and two guys that bought in the hardest on the NIL seem to also be the two that come up short and show the least amount of heart.
I want to stop you there though, because I don't think Mertz shows a lack of heart. I think Mertz, he played. I hear you, especially on Braylon Allen. The point on Braylon Allen, I think, is
okay. I'll agree.
Mertz plays hurt.
He does. He was banged up out there. He probably shouldn't have been in the game, quite honestly. By the way some of those throws were coming off, it looked like when he took the hit to the knee that there might have been problems there from that. But if that's the case, if you're hurting your team, which he in this game he was hurting us. Like, I'd rather have somebody with mobility out there where at least if something breaks down, there's a chance that you can run. Like, let's do that rather than have him out there. And like, I realize you don't want to have somebody green, but this is part of the issue that I've had with Wisconsin for forever, is that if it takes your quarterback 3 years to learn your system, then your system is a problem.
I mean, I agree. He looked hurt out there today, but I also don't think that that's the reason. Some of those balls that were just totally skied over. I mean, I don't know that if he was hurt, okay, but man, those balls were really, really bad, and I don't think that was just because he was hurt. You know, I mean, he just played horrible and putting
he was seeing ghosts out there.
The ball too much.
Like, so the throws were terrible.
Yeah, uninspired.
Mark, where are you calling from, my friend?
I'm Waukesha.
Love it, dude. Thank you for dialing in. I think it's a really good point. I'm going to let you go just because we got a few more comments and people to get to, but I really, really do appreciate you dialing in. And I hope you continue to do so. I want to kick it to, so I want to get on the Mertz thing, and then we're going to get Sad Badger on next, and then I want to hit as much of the comments as I can. I saw a lot of chatter, and I want to kick it to Scott next about this being kind of a referendum game on Bobby Engram. My thought is, I don't know what Bobby Engram can do when Braelon Allen is running like a scat back and Graham Mertz is playing terribly. But that's just my thoughts on it. I want to kick it to Scott to see where you're at on Bobby Engram. Was this a bad game by him, or are players just not playing well?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, and I don't think that those things have to be like mutually exclusive.
Fair.
But obviously the players just freaking suck today. The two guys who need to be your best two offensive players were absolute garbage. And I wouldn't bring Ingram back anyways. I don't blame him for this game. You could have had Bill Walsh in his prime in 1984, Bill Walsh calling the game today. It wouldn't have mattered. If you've got a quarterback who can't make simple throws and you've got a running back who is going down, with the turf monster grabbing his feet. I mean, what are you supposed to do? The only thing that I would have, and it's a tough call for him because you ride or die with the guy going into the season who's supposed to be a Heisman candidate, and Braelon Allen. I would have taken, him out and put Garendo in a long time, before. It's tough though. It's easy for us to say, because they have so much stock into Braelon. But he was killing us out there. I mean, any carry that went away from Garendo, who at least gave us a chance, he's got some explosiveness, that went to Allen, you knew he was going nowhere today. I don't know. And I have to start to wonder about the transfer thing, whether the legitimacy or whatever, and Mertz, is there heart not quite in it? This was the first time today where I started to question Mertz's heart even. Something wasn't right, beyond an injury. It was very wrong out there.
I'm not going to completely and some of this may be the decisions of Mertz, but we completely ignored the entire middle of the field this game. And that to me made it incredibly easy to defend. Because if the only routes you're going to be throwing are going to be 5-yard outs or deep outs, defense is going to have a pretty easy time defending you.
Especially
they're using this, especially with the sideline as an extra defender.
Right.
So
agreed. No, I agree with you, Justin. And I'm not an Ingram fan at all. I don't think he should be back there as the OC next year, whoever is coach. Obviously, the only way he would be is maybe, if JL was still coach. But I'm not going to blame this solely on him today or him as the majority stockholder in the failure today, Yeah.
I would answer the Bobby Engram thing with talking about Jim Leonhard. This game in no way, shape, or form makes me not want Jim Leonhard as the next head coach at all.
That's a good point.
And my thing about Bobby Engram is ultimately we talked about this before. It's been brought up. We don't know what JL's vision for this offense is. So, and even if he does like what Ingram's doing, but you can't really see it right now because of the players, and you can't really see it right because there's issues going on in the O-line play and stuff like that. So my view on Bobby Engram is I want JL to be the coach. So ultimately at the end of the year, wherever he decides what his vision is, if it includes Bobby Engram and he feels like changes can be made, then I would trust that. If not, I'm very open to a different offensive coordinator, but I definitely want to just make the point that I'm completely on board with Jim Leonhard still. This changes nothing for me.
Really quick, I want to get into, we have Sad Badger and Chris still in the queue, a bunch of comments. I want to get into all that. And then I want to ask you guys specifically more about the Jim Leonard question, Bobby Engram question. But first, I do have to take a very quick break. Then we're going to get back to Sad Badger, Chris, a bunch of comments. And does this impact your decision on Jim Leonard? I want to talk about that more. But first, we do have to take a very quick break. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at SimpliSafe. SimpliSafe is the #1 way to protect your home. It's something I use in my house. And I've talked about it a bunch. I have a family, I have kids. This is a way for me to protect my family, take work trips, and know that they are protected. It's peace of mind. And there's really no real price you can put on peace of mind. We have sensors on our windows, on our doors, and it was something I was able to install. I was able to do it. If you know me, which some of you kind of are starting to do, I'm not a handy dude, right? Like I once tried to build a rain collection system. Y'all should have seen it. It was terrible. For me to be able to install a security system, protect my phone, our home, protect my family, it means a lot to me. It gives my wife peace of mind. It's why we use SimpliSafe, 24/7 protection, monitoring by professional agents. It's incredible. It's awesome. And there's not a price you can put on peace of mind. And we have a great offer for you, for our Locked On Badgers listeners. Save now on the only security system we recommend to Locked On, the only security system I use. 50% off any new SimpliSafe system at simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege, 50% off. You're not going to regret it. It's something I use. It's something I love. All right, let's get back into the show. We got a bunch of people to talk to, a bunch of comments. Sad Badger and then Chris, you guys are up next in the queue. Sad Badger, we're going to get you on. You've been in the queue really since we started the show, so I really appreciate you dialing in. What's going on, my friend?
Can you hear me?
Great name, by the way, Sad Badger. Very apropos.
That's all of us today.
Yeah, we got you, man. What's going on?
All right, great. Hey, first thing though, Herbig played the best game of his career.
Yeah.
On the positive side, sad to see him go next year into the draft, but he's got to do what he's got to do. I said it earlier in the Discord, Ryan, especially Braylon, just the coaching with Al Johnson. You replace Gary Brown with an offensive lineman, a seasoned NFL vet coach. I don't know what to say. And it's a raw guy like Braylon too. Like we saw what he was coming in, doing, huge weight numbers, went from a safety to a linebacker to a running back in like a growth spurt of like a year and a half. So, I mean, that's my gripe today. And the same thing with like another PC decision, not taking a quarterback in the 2020 class after Mertz. I mean, Daniel Wright is playing baseball right now. There's no one else in the system when Mertz is obviously hurt today to go into the game. There is Wolf, there is Burkett, but I mean, that's just how I feel. I'm very sad.
I love the moniker, by the way.
Ryan and I have talked about that for a long time, the 2020 class debacle. Yeah.
No, I think, by the way, Sad Badger, thank you for dialing in. Thank you for supporting the show in the Discord as well. I think that's an incredibly good point because throughout the game, and Scott and Rajiv and Justin, I'm going to kick it to you. People were talking about, well, you got to pull Mertz. He's playing terribly. But part of the reason we can't pull Mertz is we have no quarterback depth. We have Chase Wolf, who isn't very good, who's proven the fact that he's not a real high-level D1 quarterback, and we have a freshman. Like, you can't pull Mertz because we don't have the depth to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's self-inflicted wounds. Like, this team has not taken recruiting seriously, and I don't think we ever had – like, Ryan and I talked about this offline a little bit this week when we were just talking about things. I don't think Paul Chryst ever cared about recruiting. Like, we love the classes and seeing where we were. I think in his mind, he could have recruited all 2 or 3 stars and it would have been fine. He could have just developed them. And the problem is that I don't think that we've been developing players the same way that we were in the early 2010s. Right now, quite honestly, the offensive side of the ball is a total wasteland of potential right now. Like, we have all these guys that were really highly rated, there are high expectations of, who are just not fulfilling on that potential at all.
And Jim Leonard has brought up that, he recognizes and he's said that he acknowledges that the development hasn't been there. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that he wants to change, which is why, one of the reasons that I'm very still pro Leonard, but it has to happen, and recruiting did this to us. We've got no one. I mean, Chase Wolf is a walking pick six. I just feel like it's just not, we don't want that.
So wasn't the starter today.
Yeah. obviously recruiting. I'm just glad we had the basketball game last night to kind of, just make this a palatable weekend, because I actually feel solid about that team right now. I think Justin said it best. It's a wasteland of potential. I haven't been able to tangibilize my thoughts and my words in that way, but that's the best way to describe it. Yeah. We've got all of these guys who came in with high hopes. We watched all of their high school recruiting tape. Skylar Bell obviously has lots of potential. We lost a guy in Marcus Allen who had a lot of potential. These offensive linemen who just get rolled on the weekly. Yeah, you've got to, and I hope that it is Leonard. I hope that he gets that chance. And hopefully he's already formulating that plan. I'm guessing that he knows of an entire offensive staff that he's going to bring in that'll change everything. But everything has to be changed. When they talk about, well, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, we need to reinvent the wheel. Absolutely.
That's an interesting point. And really quick, I want to get to Chris and Adam next. So we got a bunch of people. Sad Badger, thank you for dialing in. As always, man, I really appreciate your support on the Discord as well. And please continue dialing in. It's a really good insight.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Chris, we're going to get to you next. I want to kind of frame it as this, though. I don't actually, Scott, it's rare that you and I disagree, right? You and I are on those same wavelength, like Legos. We stick together on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is a referendum on Ingram. I just think the players were terrible. And Iowa's a really good defense. It's interesting to me that we have a disconnect there.
I think it goes beyond this game, though, for me, is what I'm saying. I think
his
this game
mindset
is kind of a culminating, but culmination.
I have not liked the level of aggression that he has dating back to him taking over. Like, it's more than Paul Christ, but I feel like we're so beaten down with how conservative Paul Christ was that we saw any type of aggression and we're like, wow, this is such a huge change.
It's true.
But the reality is overall, if you're going to beat a team like Iowa that has a defense like this, I would much rather take my chances and fire my shots at them than, and potentially have some turnovers that kill you, than basically run into a brick wall and just get demoralized the entire time.
Yeah,
but
if throwing it out of the flat for 2-yard gains, that's not going to work.
If I could, though, and then I want to kick to Rajiv, and then I want to bring Chris and Adam on. If I could, what is Ingram supposed to do when Braelon Allen has 17 carries for 40 yards and Graham Mertz is 15 of 36 with a pick, a terrible pick? I just don't know what he's supposed to do. And Trey Weddig is a turnstile.
Oh gosh, he looked really bad today.
And penalties he had. He was just
I actually disagree with you a little bit, Ryan. I think that it does have to be a little bit of a referendum on Ingram. And yes, I know the players weren't playing well, but what Ingram does is the play calling, and we see the play calling, and there's execution problems, yes, but I mean, why are you just throwing the ball out into the flat every other play for 2 yards? Look, we had one big touchdown, probably a missed assignment by their defense, but my God, it was 52 yards, something like that. I mean, just take some chances.
Which we never go deep, by the way. We never go deep.
Exactly. And we have the speed for it. Just try something. And I know they've got good corners, but I just feel like there was when Jim Leonhard first took over that Northwestern game, like Justin said, we saw a little, ingenuity, only because we hadn't seen any before. But now, where's the evolution going with him? And this is a good defense. I get it, but the play calling is on Ingram. The execution's on the players, yes, and there was a lot of that, and I totally agree with you there. But I do believe that something has to change. We have to do something differently, and I think Scott, you brought it up. I do believe that Jim Leonhard has a plan formulated, not necessarily his offensive staff, but he knows what he wants to do. He's alluded to little tiny bits and pieces of it in his press conferences. He knows what he wants to do, and I think he will make big wholesale changes.
That's fair. And Will Kent commenting on the show. We got a bunch of comments we got to get to too. Says, yes, throw the ball down the field.
I just want to throw, and this is one of the things I kind of alluded to earlier with the whole culture thing. I think regardless of whether we keep Leonhard or not, I kind of came into this wondering about what McIntosh's thoughts were on the team and why he might want to look somewhere else. And one of the reasons I said that was perhaps he feels like we need a culture change. And watching this, I now feel like we definitely do on the offensive side of the football, regardless of what happens going forward. We have to clear that out and rebuild from scratch with whatever Jim wants to put there. But there's some deep-seated issues that are on that side that have been there for about 6 or 7 years now. Like, we have not been a good offensive side of the football team in a very, very long time. And it's like, part of that is culture. Part of that is the expectations of the people that are on that side. And I realize we've had some coaching turnover there, but there needs to be a level of expectation on that side that if the defense gives us a good game, that's fine, but we need to go out there and outscore the other team and just flat out be like, we need to put points on the board.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've been able to do that. Let's bring Chris on because Chris has been in the queue for a minute, and then Adam next. Chris, not your first time on the show. Definitely appreciate you dialing in, though.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was like watching a Dick Bennett basketball team on grass.
That's a great analogy.
That must have been the first year before.
Yeah. I mean, so many comments I could make, but one of the things I saw when I was watching the game, I was kind of following the Twitter feed and Zach Heilprin from ESPN. He made a comment about an Allen run where instead of putting his shoulder down and driving to make it like a 3rd and 1, he kind of stepped out of bounds and it was a 3rd and 4. And then I saw Badger Maniac, who's a longtime, very astute Badger observer, ran many, chat boards pre-Twitter back in the day. Whose opinion I respect. He said Allen's, not the back we saw last year. So it was just frustrating to watch. Just again, trying to go back to him again and again to think something was going to change. It's kind of the definition of insanity, right? And then obviously Mertz couldn't get the job done. He just didn't look good. So a couple of our players who were making the most on NIL just didn't play well today, right? I mean, that's just kind of ironic. Our 2 marquee players who were actually making money on college football had terrible stats. But anyway, your question about Jim Leonard, I'm still for Jim Leonard. I still think he's the right guy. I still think he should be given a chance. I don't think this is an indictment of anything he's doing. So, but tough one to lose. Just ugly football. The defense, did what they needed to do, but the offense didn't show up.
Yeah, I think that's it right there. The defense did what they had to do. The offense didn't show up.
And special teams just completely didn't show up.
I mean, that's 14 points right there. Right?
It's unbelievable.
I saw some comments, and Chris, I want you to stay on for this comment too, because I really appreciate you dialing in, especially because it's not your first time and you have great insight. I saw some comments about the defense needing to stop them in the red zone, and I'm just like, listen, the defense this isn't the 85 Bears, right? They're not an automatic defense. Like
we've had one defense that has done it in my entire life, and that was the 2017 defense that consistently was put behind the 8 ball with bad field position situations and would stop teams. That's the only team in my Badger history that I remember locking teams down when we would have a bad turnover or whatever, which is why I was never big on the Hornibrook season, because he still threw 15 picks that year or whatever.
This team, Wisconsin, our defense stopped Iowa every single time they started to drive where they should have started to drive. Every single time. So they
pushed them back sometimes.
My goodness, so many negative plays, so many sacks, so many tackles for loss.
Fantastic they played great.
Performance, fantastic.
They played great.
They played great.
They get the ball in the 20-yard line. You can't ask the defense to do anything there. I mean, that is what it is. We can't put our defense in bad positions. I put it in the Discord, and we've said it already. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. All the points are because of Badger mistakes. Absolutely the case.
Yep, and Badger Bournemouth fan who's been really a follower of the show since we kicked off. So I really appreciate you, man, as always. Said it, yeah, you can't expect the defense to consistently get stops when the other team starts in the red zone. Like this, They played great.
Going downhill already. Yeah.
Scott, man, or Chris, man, thank you so much for the comments. We're going to get Adam on the show next. As always, I hope you continue joining the show. Really good insight. Adam Hefty joins the show multiple times. Also a writer at BQ5, and also writer with Dylan Graff at Badger Notes. Great dude. Adam, as always, man, you're most welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. So I went all husband today. My wife had a craft fair, so I wasn't able to really watch the game. I watched it quickly.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
You didn't miss much.
I made the right choice, I think.
Yeah.
But so I watched through it quickly. So I don't know how accurate my thoughts are. I'll have to watch through it again. And then I kind of came to this a little late. Would you be able to give me kind of an elevator pitch of where the fans are, what you've heard so far in the show today? So I don't want to repeat anything.
Scott, I want to kick it to you as you're taking a drink. That's my bad, but yeah.
What happened today? In general, the defense played. I mean, what did Iowa have? Like 120, 130 yards? I mean, what was their total yardage?
I got it right here.
It's probably
94 yards passing.
Okay. And then like 50 yards running or something?
Yep. 52 running, 94 passing.
Yep.
So on 150 roughly.
150 yards. Defense played amazingly well. We had a few huge mistakes. Blocked punt, which was one of the weirder block punts I've ever seen. I don't even know what happened there. And so then Iowa got the ball in the red zone. They scored 2 plays later. We threw a pick 6. We had another punt.
I'm sorry to put you guys all through this again.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Adam.
And that was, after we had a long pass play right before the half. That was basically all we could muster on offense.
Yeah.
So it was, you saved yourself a nightmare. No therapy needed for you, actually. But I'm going to say something. What the hell is Dean Ingram still doing out there returning punts?
Good question.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, what is that?
He's averaging like 2 yards a return, if even that. And he ran backwards on one today where he never got back to where he was, where he could have just ran straight forward for 4 or 5 yards.
It's unforgivable.
Just take the yardage that's there.
Why is he out there?
Like if you returned like 4 touchdowns, I get you dancing around a little bit back there. You haven't.
Not Devin.
You haven't even had a big return in your career.
Yeah, that one last week that was okay.
Yeah. Wisconsin is 13th in the Big Ten in punt return average. Just throw it out there.
And that's bad. Is that bad?
That is
our
not good.
special teams is bad to begin with. I'm
surprised.
When you look back, that we're just not good at getting any type of punt return at all. Like it always seems like the guys are right on top of us, which tells me our blocking is not good too. But
I mean, we haven't really talked about the punt block today, but my goodness, the personal protector didn't personally protect anything.
John Torchio.
I mean,
did not pick up the block.
I was like, Torchio, just stay on. He's fantastic at what his job is.
6 interceptions
there, because I mean, there was no block at all. He just let the guy like kind of run by him and push him to the side, and all of a sudden it was a block punt. I'm like, wait a second, you didn't. There was no attempt at blocking that guy.
I mean, let's frame this like this really quick. And then Ryan, I see you in the queue too. We're gonna get to you next, and then I promise I'm gonna try to hit a lot of comments. I mean, offense was an F, special teams is basically an F, and defense was an A. Yeah, right. Like that's basically the synopsis of the game. And by the way, I want to kick it to y'all, and then Ryan, I want to get you on. Illinois lost. Like everything was on the table.
It reminds me of last year.
Just like
it really reminds me of last year.
Then we go out and play the worst game of the season.
Yep.
So
inexcusable.
I was looking at Mertz, and I spent this whole season thinking, okay, we have to look at Mertz through the lens of a college quarterback, and he's done well throughout the entire season up to today. And usually that looks pretty good on him, but he was so off target in so many throws that it's really hard to really even give him a passing grade with that standard.
Well, that's one of the things that I've said about our offense in general is that for whatever reason, we can't even get average quarterback play against a good defense. Like he was significantly under 50% for the bulk of this football game.
Was Mertz hurt though? Is it just Mertz has been really good this year. I just want to low key and then Rajiv, I want to kick it to you on this one. Like Mertz has been, I feel like really good, and I'm almost okay giving him a mulligan against maybe the best defense we're going to play on the road against Iowa. I don't know.
Can we also say that like he had a clean pocket for much of the night too.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in there. He was able to step into throws. It wasn't like he was. I'm not saying he never got sacked, but he was under duress. But there were plenty of times the protection was okay. He was stepping into throws and he was just losing his mind. I mean, I don't know what he was doing out there, but yeah, like I actually let's give a little credit to the O-line because we've dogged them enough this year. They weren't that bad today, other than a couple of wedding. Oh,
can I be the voice of reason here since I didn't go through that live? Okay, so let's take a step back. It looked bad, but we came into this season, even at the beginning of the season, even when the most optimistic of us, we knew that this was a flawed team. There were going to be a few problems, even going towards a 9-3 season. There were going to be some problems, and we ran into some problems today, and it was bad. Sorry.
All good.
It was bad, but I think what's most important is to see how they respond next week. I said the same thing after the Michigan State game, and they responded very well the next week. So let's take a step back. Yeah. We'll see how they respond against Nebraska, and we'll go from there because Mertz isn't Aaron Rodgers. The receiving core
right now. No, he's not.
The receiving core is young but talented. So they're going to have poor showings, and against a defense like that, yeah, you're going to have a poor showing. It was worse than we thought it would be, but we'll see what they have against Nebraska. And then I'm not ready to throw this team out with the bathwater quite yet.
You are too reason for the therapy reaction show,
sorry.
Adam. With that,
I think we all should watch it on tape delay.
I do want to get Ryan on the show. Adam, man, thank you as always for joining in. I hope you continue to do it. Yeah. Very, very reasoned for the reaction show. Ryan, I do want to get you on quick. You've been in the queue for a long time. Guys, are we overreacting? Like, this is a good Iowa defense.
No. I give all the respect to the fact that they're a good defense, but the problem is that we didn't even put up a fight on the offensive side of the football. Like, it could be a good defense, and that could keep us from scoring a lot of points. We should still be able to piece together some effective offense against them.
We looked like we weren't trying. We looked like we weren't trying. We looked like we didn't care. And so, no, we're not overreacting because, you can't play like that, play that uninspired, play like you're just not going to take the risks, play like you're not going to, push for every yard and then and say we're overreacting because we're not overreacting. That was shameful performance by the offense.
Just like Minnesota on offense last year. At least our defense looked better. I think a lot of this too, until we get rid of that Christ era like stank, we're just going to see it time to time. We've talked a lot about the lack of development. Justin brought up 6-7 years of this, and it can't go away in 6 games. It's just not going to go away. And so hopefully we just, I really hope that JL gets the job and we just go in a completely different direction on off. I'm not saying we need to do run and shoot, but we have an overhaul with the culture. We get different guys in there. No more of this nepotistic mentality. Okay. Get different guys in there.
I am all for Curtis Duncan and Webster Slaughter being put out there on the field. Let's get some Warren Moon. Let's do this.
Right.
You really spread it out. And to that point, I brought up Jordan Lovera, who's commented on the show a lot. Scott, I brought this up because you brought it up. You kind of talked about getting rid of the PC era. I don't want to say like cringe of it, but it was going downhill. And Jordan Lovera said it's not Leonard's fault. Listen, we have no special teams coordinator. Chris Herring's still on staff. Like, how much can we really expect Jim Leonard to change in 6 games?
The offense under Chris was flatlined from the start. Like I said, 5 out of 7 seasons, he was under 30 points per game. That's just bad in college football.
I love this comment here. Badgerman C, who's been on the show a lot. Now's the point where we're going to try to get to a bunch of these comments because I love them. And Rajiv, I'm going to kick this to you. Don't you dare blame this loss on Ingram. We need a quarterback, a running back, receiver, offense is soft. This is actually kind of more where I am. I know we've talked about it, but I want to revisit this because we have a lot of comments about this. I think this is way more on the players than it is on Ingram, but I feel like I'm in the minority there.
I mean, I think, like I said, I think it's a bit of a
I think
combo.
it's a mix. Yeah,
It's a mix. But listen, the players. I mean, he's right. The players deserve the offensive players deserve a ton of blame for this. But like I said, I still think when you're playing this defense, it's a good defense. I think there is blame on Ingram because the play calling I thought was piss poor. I mean, frankly. And so I think that, and you have to adjust. I don't think the adjustments were made in mid game. I mean, how Allen clearly wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. So let's just stop.
Yeah, don't even put him in.
Just get him out. Right?
So, out there.
I do think there's blame on both sides. I can see your point, Ryan, and I can see everyone else's, but the players definitely 100% deserve. They're culpable for this. The offensive players, because I just thought there was no heart across the board, and it just. I mean, we've said it a lot tonight. They just looked like they weren't trying.
Going through the motions.
Yeah, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable at this level. It just
in your arguably biggest rivalry game. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Minnesota has risen up the last few years, but for the last 10, 15 years, it has been Iowa. That's been our biggest rivalry.
I mean, we've won 5 of the last 6 meetings at Kinnick Stadium. We won 8 of the last 10 before today against Iowa. This is Iowa. How are you not going to get up for this game? It infuriates me that's the thing that I would want the whole time. I was like, I said right off from the start, uninspired. That's what just sticks with me the most. It's what upsets me the most. Iowa's a good defense. I can live with the fact that we couldn't move the ball a ton. I mean, but when you're not playing with heart and you're playing like you're not trying, and fans can see it, and we live and die with this team, and we feel the emotions, and it's just. This is a big game for us, and we laid flat. We came out flat, and it's unacceptable.
150 yards we gave up, and we lost by 2 touchdowns.
That's incredible, by the way. That's an incredible Scott, thank you for bringing that up. That's incredible to be that good defensively and lose. Frankly, not even be competitive. We weren't competitive in this game, and our defense gave up nothing. It's so frustrating, man. I'm sorry. I'm so frustrated.
It's terrible. It feels just like that Minnesota game last year. It feels like a kick to the balls. It's terrible.
So here's another one. We'll go back to Jacinta Monez says Mertz needs to be benched. I just don't think it's realistic because I don't think we have anybody on the roster that can play better.
I mean, I think it would be nice to see what Burkett could do, but honestly, no. Mertz doesn't need to be benched. I don't think he does because I still think he gives us the best chance to win. And I'll tell you what, I want to beat Nebraska, and I want the dang axe back, and I want to beat Minnesota. And I think he gives us the best chance to win those 2 games. So for me, he's still our quarterback. We just need to execute better, and someone needs to kick him in the butt, and let's go. But no, I don't think he needs to be benched. I'm not on that board.
I think in this game, if he was actually injured, that he should have been benched. But that was my only reasoning for it, is because he did not look right in the second half of this game. Something was off with him. I don't know if it's physical injury or mentally he was just seeing ghosts out there. But he was not there was no authority in what he was doing out there with the football. Like there was no conviction in his throws, like he knew what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go with it. And when that's the case, that's where your accuracy just disappears.
I'm looking at a comment here about Bobby Engram. I'm just going to have to disagree. His play calling, and Justin referred to this earlier about when you go from absolutely no creativity to getting something, and we got really excited about it. So last week, I'm not going to count because that weather was insane. Okay. Just getting out of that game against Maryland with the W was big.
Right.
But when we look at Purdue, our defense dominated again against Purdue, and we just kind of let them self-destruct. Aiden O'Connell lost his mind for that game and the next game. It took him a couple weeks to regain composure.
We sat on the ball for effectively the second quarter.
We sat on the ball and did
We had nothing. A 14-yard touchdown drive and a broken touchdown by Guerrero in the second half.
Absolutely nothing. The Michigan State game was an absolute abomination. That was an absolute abomination as far as Ingram is concerned. He even basically admitted that, in his own way. And then, the Northwestern game, that was pretty good. And it was Northwestern. So, and so now we have this game this week. We've got this game and Michigan State. that are, and again, I'm not going to blame all of it on Ingram this week, no, but I think Justin made some excellent points. Ingram's not going to be there going forward. It's not going to happen. There's no way.
I don't, seeing some of the comments on here and stuff, I don't think that Ingram is a terrible coach. I just don't think he's the right fit for what we want to do. If our goal is to win the Big Ten or to start competing at that level where we win it every few years or, a couple of times a decade, you need to have somebody that's going to put an offense out there that is going to scare the other teams that are competitive at the top. That means Michigan, that means Ohio State, that means Penn State. We can't be building our offense to beat the powers that are Northwestern, Iowa and Minnesota. We should be going out there and just blasting them.
Like he took over kind of midstream here.
I don't disagree with that. From my standpoint, I want a coach that's going to be aggressive in just in general. Like if we get up and if we're in the 40s, all right, back it off. That's fine. But until you get to that point, run your offense. You know what happens from that too? Your offense gets better because guys get more efficient because they're constantly running the same plays and you're attacking the same way. So the mindset of we need to attack is there at all times.
Yep.
When you fall into this mindset of let's sit on the football, then you start to get lax. You start to get more complacent. It's like, we're ahead. No big deal. And that goes back to the whole thing where I've said all along where we put so much pressure on the defense and people are like, well, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal. If you're on the defensive side of the football, you want to be playing against a team where you're up 2 scores because why? They're probably going to be throwing. And number 2, if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
Just think about how good our team would be because of how well our defense has played and how they've been playing for several years. But even today, how good would we have been if our offense could just do anything today? Anything really would have been
average offense.
Gosh.
That's very true.
And special
so
teams
frustrating.
Get punts off and tackle guys.
I mean, we have such a good defense and we're wasting them away. We waste them away every year. And it's just the guys are so good. I mean, and what's going to be remembered about this team and what's going to be remembered about this game is this lack of special team success and offensive success. And meanwhile, guys like Herbig and John Meta, what a great game John Meta had today.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, these guys deserve so much credit. And rightfully so. We're upset about it, and we're pissed about the offense and the special teams. But my God, the defense they are our program, and they deserve so much credit for what they've done.
And I want to go to just some of these comments quick, just run through them, just to acknowledge them. Really, Kyle Matre, I'm unbelievably outraged. Never in my life have I seen such a sorry Badger program. I'm outraged. I'm sick, and I wouldn't say such a sorry program, but I would say I understand and respect the passion. Like I am so frustrated right now. So Kyle, man, I appreciate it. I get it. And a couple more here. Jordan Love just says, damn it. Kyle Matre again says outraged. There's so many comments along this vein because we had somehow backdoored back into the Big Ten West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to come out with this performance is just heartbreaking.
And now look at the fact that, guys, I mean, how many times can you remember us being 2 games away from the end of the season and we're fighting for bowl eligibility? What?
Yeah,
what is that all about? We only have 5 wins. We're 10 games into the season.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point. I want to get
we're
about an hour in here.
You should watch Cola Crew highlights.
Uncultured Barbarian says, should I
is
start watching Cola Crew?
Is apparently absolutely torching the team that he's playing in the playoffs today.
Yeah. I want to kind of go round table here. And then I want to finish on a couple of comments. And I apologize if I don't get to all of the comments. As always, it is a fault of my time management skills. But let's go round table. Start with Justin, then go Rajiv, Scott. Any other things that you think we didn't hit on or any other thing you want to get off your chest from this game or this team or anything?
I think that Badger fans just need to weather the storm and keep in mind that this season was already kind of a lost season as it was. The goal here is to hopefully develop some guys, see some bright spots that we can hopefully lean on next year. I wouldn't take a lot away from any of the coaches here, and I don't even mean to say that on the defensive side. I don't know how many of these guys Leonard actually had a hand in hiring. We will find out in the offseason if he gets the position, what we're going to be doing going forward. But keep in mind that hopefully better days are in store. I think we've seen enough from Leonard, at least as a defensive coordinator, to know that he knows how to maximize what he can get from his players on that side. Now it's, can he put people on the offensive side to maximize that side?
Yeah, I would build on that and say that I think that there's excitement still in this program because of the fact that we have a new coach, and hopefully we have a new coach for the long term. So I'm excited about seeing that. For me, I'm to the point where I want the axe. That's what I want out of this season. I want a bowl game, and I want an axe. I want the axe. Well, an axe would get us the bowl game, but I agree. We need to just kind of put this behind us. Let's take I want to see what Jim Leonard does the next couple games. And I think Adam brought it up earlier. Bouncing back is a huge piece of what we need to do here. So let's come out against Nebraska and kick them in the teeth, because we should. And, that should not be an issue. And I want to see us, begin to kind of flex our muscles a little bit more, and let's get the axe. Let's get the axe. That has got to be our focus right now.
Yeah, I think that those are good points. And it's so tough to say, let's see what happens, week to week. McIntosh came out when he fired Christ and said, we think Jim's the best guy to run it now. We're going to do a nationwide search at the end of the season. After each win, there's a drumbeat from us saying, we need to hire him, as the actual head coach and drop the interim tag. We just got to wait and see how things play out. We see that after today too. Hopefully we can win these next 2 games and come away feeling much better than we do today. And who knows what happens, but that's all going to be part of how this season is judged and how Leonard is judged, moving forward. And there's a lot of unknowns with this team right now. I think that's the most frustrating thing as a fan, is we just don't really know what to expect, which direction we're headed. We don't know what we're going to look like week to week. I was so pumped for this game all week, for this Iowa game, and obviously it was the biggest letdown. So, yeah, hopefully we can come out with a positive taste in our mouth at the end of the season. But if not, I feel confident that whether it's Leonard or whoever else, that because of how hot the Big Ten is right now, with all the money that's coming in, and the conference expansion and the cachet of Wisconsin as a program, that we are going to be trending upwards, whoever gets that job moving forward. I really do. And if it's Leonard, I just feel strongly, and I agree with the folks that say you can't blame all this on Ingram. I do agree with that, and I get it. He's not coming back next year. There's no way. I don't, maybe it's not fair. Maybe he was dealt a rough hand or whatever. But he's not going to be back. If Leonard gets the job, he will hire his own guy, and I think that the offense will look a lot different. And frankly, I hope that it does, and it has to. So let's see what happens. And I think that, as Justin said, there will be better days ahead either way.
Tons of great comments, by the way, from all of you and from everyone in the queue. I agree. And I want to comment Seek Nagog. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Said you're too emotional after a loss. You're too high on the offense or on the defense, and you're too harsh on the offense. I think the defense has played good for several weeks now.
Yeah.
It's not just a reflection of Iowa.
They've rounded into form. They've gotten healthier than they were.
That was good.
I think it's a top 15-ish defense. I don't think it's a top defense. But
quite frankly, Ohio State dropped like 50 on Iowa. Not that I expect to drop 50, but we should be able to score more than 10.
Yeah. We are not being too harsh. We are not being too harsh on the offense.
I hear the point, though. Like, we are emotional
for sure. But I disagree with you. Yeah, we're not being too harsh on the offense. The offense, we've seen this offense play a lot better. And I know I was a good
They
defense,
didn't move the ball at all. And
it's also like you can tell. We all watch football. We know when a team is playing with heart and when they're playing hard. And they didn't. And there's nothing anyone can say to convince me otherwise. They didn't.
They got pushed around today on the opposite side of the ball.
Absolutely. Let's be honest. Mertz was 16 of 35, and Braelon Allen averaged like 2 yards a carry. Like that's not good enough. Iowa is not the 85 Bears.
Anyone who watched the Purdue and Iowa game and how those two teams were going at each other, there was a significant difference between how these two teams went against each other and how those two teams were. There was a ton of penalties that happened that game because those players were playing with so much passion.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. It was awesome.
I will say this. Iowa's obviously a good defense. I did not. I expected Wisconsin to score like 20. I did not expect Wisconsin to light up.
Yeah,
Iowa.
we didn't expect I didn't expect 35, 40 points. I expected them to get to 20, 21.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to wrap up here because we're an hour in. I've already kept all these fine gentlemen too long. I apologize for every comment I don't get to. There's a lot of comments that are very similar to other comments, so I try to pick and choose. And again, I fail at time management all the time. I have 3 incredible people on the show with Justin, Rasheed, and Scott. A bunch of great comments. Adam, Mark, Ryan, all jumping in the queue as well. I greatly appreciate everybody for tuning in. I think an hour is as much as I can expect to keep anybody, quite frankly. We're going to continue talking about it. We have a bunch more to talk about in the upcoming week. I'm going to have all these gentlemen, I'm sure, back on, hopefully. So continue listening on Wisconsin. As always, this is an incredibly disappointing loss. But I do appreciate everybody tuning in. More content to come on Wisconsin. And for all the comments I didn't get to, I do apologize. But I read them all, and I tend to respond to them later in the week as well. We'll do like a user show. So look for your comments on that. Frustrating for sure on Wisconsin. And more to come.